Howdy folks, greetings from a rice paddy in Bali, Indonesia, just doing a bit of random motorbike exploring through the countryside and found this really pretty little spot, nice and quiet, just hearing the wind in the trees and the grass and everything. So this video is titled How to Face Your Fears. I just did a video talking about the importance of facing fear and how oftentimes God and love are actually in the direction of our fears, and how there tends to be this sort of basic simplistic spiritual belief of there's love and then there's fear, and so always choose love and move away from fear, and how this is a misunderstanding and doesn't get to the heart of what is troubling many of us, because there is so much fear embedded in the hearts of humans and in the souls and the minds of people, and that facing that fear and resolving it in some way is so important, and you don't do that by always moving away from fear. I certainly do recognize the wisdom in actions based on love versus based on fear, and so I don't mean to discount that concept entirely by any means, but still facing fear and getting to the heart of it is so important in the process of coming into a deeper level of one's being, and so that you can be accessing parts of yourselves that are otherwise frozen in fear and stuffed down in the subconscious, and thus not accessible to us, parts of our own being that we are disconnected from because they are basically frozen in fear. And so I thought that I would just throw out there a few ideas on how to face one's fears in a practical way, what you can actually do as you go about your daily life that will actually make a difference and resolve some of this inner stuff. So the first most fundamental distinction to make is that of fear that is based on the present moment versus fear that is past unresolved trauma that we are projecting onto our present moment experience. If you're in the African savannah and a tiger is looking at you hungrily, then your fear in that moment is completely warranted and justified, and serves a purpose of hopefully helping you to get out of that situation somehow. If you're afraid of heights, then that can be quite reasonable if you're in a situation in which you need to watch out for the sake of your life and not fall off a cliff. But to a great extent, most of us have unresolved past fears that are not related to the present moment, which we are projecting onto the moment. And one good example is just for people who have phobias. It's perfectly reasonable to be in the water and there's a shark nearby and you're afraid. Be in the woods and you see a bear and so you're afraid. Phobias, on the other hand, are where you have an extreme fear of something regardless of whether there's an actual danger there. So you have this extreme fear of heights, extreme fear of sharks, or being alone in the wilderness, or whatever, and you can't even hardly go there in any small way without that fear coming up. And a funny example is a friend on Facebook said that she has an extreme fear of dams, as in, dams that dam up a river to make a lake. And this was one of the random things that she posted in a recent post of saying just random things about herself. And she said that she can't even look at dams because they bring up this extreme fear. And she was serious, and I asked her, well, what's that about? And she said, I don't know, I guess it must be some past life experience where some dam broke and flooded my village or something, or who knows. She had no idea, but this was a real thing. And so the first thing is to recognize, what are your fears that don't actually make a whole lot of practical, reasonable sense based on the situation, that are just, your own inner fears that you're projecting onto the outer world. And with things like that, then really the best thing to do is to do that which you're afraid of. If you have an extreme fear of heights, then you might pluck up the courage to go parachuting, go skydiving. If you have an extreme fear of sharks, I pretty much have a, maybe not extreme, but a fairly intense fear of sharks, then going in the ocean and going swimming can be one way to combat that. And in the process, to feel whatever you feel. If that fear comes up, then try to go into it. Try to feel it deeply. There's a difference between resolving one's fear and conquering one's fear. And so I'm not talking about conquering fear as in you sort of, pound it into submission so that it's no longer there. I'm talking about actually going into it and feeling it, bringing it forward into your conscious mind, and through feeling it, actually resolving it, and recognizing that this is an energy that is stuck, deep within your conscious being, your soul somewhere, and that it can be resolved through bringing it to consciousness, bringing it from the darkness of the subconscious into the conscious mind, and allowing it to come forth and be released. And in order for it to be released, it has to flow through your conscious mind. So just coming to some greater awareness of what are your actual fears, and finding ways to do what you really want to do in life, in spite of your fear, and to go in the direction of fear, not to go in the direction of danger, but of this fear that's held within. Another example is from personal experience from just recently. Then I was on a flight coming here to Bali, and we hit some pretty bad turbulence along the way, and it went on for quite a while, like 10-15 minutes or something, of these pretty intense turbulence. And that's an experience that most people have had at some point, where all of a sudden you're just like, get me off of this plane. This does not feel good anymore. I want out of here. And the problem is that there's nothing whatsoever that you can do about it. So in a situation such as that, where suddenly you come face to face with some primal fears, then you have an assortment of options of how you're going to deal with it. You can clench up and seize up in fear. You can sort of grasp around for, how can I get out of this? What can I do? Maybe I can somehow tell the pilot to find a different route, whatever. But obviously that doesn't make any sense. In that situation, you're just completely stuck in it, and there's absolutely nothing you can do whatsoever. You are completely at the mercy of the pilot's hands. And so recognize this situation and take advantage of it as an opportunity to feel your fear. So instead of tensing up and freezing up, try to tap into that fear, that energy, and try to let it flow through you. Because you can get to a point where you sort of hit this primal fear within you, and all of a sudden you feel it move, you feel it flow through you. Recognize that this is energy that wants to be moving, and try to figure out how to get that energy moving. And so probably the best way is instead of tensing, is to relax. Surrender to the moment completely, and close your eyes, go into meditation, and through the power of your consciousness, seek to go into this feeling and try to embrace it as best you can, and allow it to flow and to move through you, and see what else comes up. You can maybe even tap into more fear and just kind of get it going. There's a misunderstanding that if you go